Wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, welcome back. It is week two on the one-man EVA Pod, and as we get into the late end of spring and into summer, the demands on the time get changed a little bit. So I actually spent a couple 3 hours this morning working in the yard, and I'm trying to make good on my promise to myself. It worked okay last year. I'm going to see if I can do it again this year, where if I spend a little bit of time every day or a little bit of time more often in the yard, rather than killing myself trying to get it all done in one day, that maybe I'll get some exercise and get rid of this gut, and also keep the yard looking pretty good. So went out, nice weather today, sun was shining, wasn't overly windy, so we'd been getting a lot of rain lately, and I had a lot of wet leaves. I needed to rake those out and let the ground dry. But you didn't come to hear about the weather. You came to see how the pod was going. And I got to tell you, as much as, I mean, I am a big proponent. I am very pro light strip. There are some things that you just can't do any better than using a light strip. But that does not mean that there's not a place in this beautiful world for single LEDs. God knows there's plenty of places for single LEDs. And the place that I have always gotten my single LEDs, this is not a commercial, I've always gotten my pre-wired LEDs, is an outfit called osneum.com. They do LEDs for interior lighting and for automobiles. This is where I first heard about them, is for, pimping out your car if you wanted to put LEDs in your car, which is great because that means everything is pre-resisted to go from 9 to 12 volts. Makes my life so much easier because I don't have to think about, what voltage, what resistors, blah, blah, blah. But reason number 2 why I always go to Osneum. I did a quick inventory on the lights I was going to need for the pod, particularly single bulbs for the headlights, and looked through my stash and found that I was lacking. I did not have the bulbs that I needed, so I quick dashed off an order on Thursday. Friday, I had gotten a call from a nice lady at Osneum because there was a trouble with my credit card. No, it wasn't what you think. I had put the wrong expiration date when I signed in or when I did it online, so they were having problems. So I talked to them. They put through the order. No problemo. Everything's wonderful. It's Monday. There are the stinking bulbs. And I did not ask for expedited shipping. This is regular first class postage. And it got to me 2 business days later, Saturday. Friday they put the order in. So it went through the mail system on Saturday and Monday I've got it. That, my friends, is damn good customer service. So I will be using them I will be using them more in the future because single LEDs, like I say, single LEDs are the way to go sometimes. Which brings us back to today's project, because with yard work and with running to the post office and with all of this and that, I don't have time to do a lot today, but I do have a time to do a little light boxing. And I don't mean, pugilistic, mano a mano. I mean light boxing. I'm going to make some light boxes, and particularly I'm going to start on these side lower light boxes. They get a, where is it? It is, if I can find it, probably in the other, anyway, it's a clear insert that goes in there. I'm going to scuff those up a little bit to give the surface something for the paint to stick to, frost those up a little bit. They get a coat of the clear red. Now there are 2 lower on the back walls. There's 2 lower light units. There are 2 ceiling units, and then there's the, if I'm Dave and I'm not dead yet, there is a red light here, a red light here, and then a red light that is curved back behind my head right above the door. Those all get red LEDs, and they're all clear parts in the kit. So what I'm going to do is just get all of those out, frost them up, put a coat of red clear Tamiya on those, set them aside. They'll probably take 2 or 3 coats of that because you don't want to plaster that on. And then they're going to get pre-wired red LEDs. I'm going to see if the ones on the sides will accept the strips, because there's less ceiling height clearance between the back of the lighting and the ceiling, so those might have to get light strips. But certainly these bench lights can get single red LEDs, and that's what we're going to do. So enough talking about it, let's do it. To make these guys fit, pardon the squeaky chair, these guys sit on this piece. Let's turn this around right here. These guys sit like this, and the other one sits like so. What I've done is I've put it in place and traced out basically what plastic I need to remove, and I've come up with a shape here that I need to remove so that I can put a bigger light box in it. And the bigger the light box, the further away the bulb is from the surface, which means the more diffused it is. So that's what we're aiming for. Although it's not impossible to believe that, you know, in the 60s when this thing was filmed, that somebody didn't stick a red bulb behind that. So, you know, seeing a red bulb wouldn't be completely out of whack. But let's get these parts cut out. Oh, it's been a long, tiring day, but I've got the first 2 boxes done, and now you know why I hate scratch building things. These 2 little side boxes are going to go right down in here, and they have to go at a weird angle. That's why this is here. It's going to sit something like that, and then have a red light bulb in behind it. So I'm going to let those dry, and then I'm going to take time to put another coat of red clear on these pieces. I did one already, but I've done the inside only, so I need to turn them over and do the outsides of them. So let me flip those over. This box is out of the way, and I'm testing this to see whether or not putting a clear piece behind these panels and then using cool white bulbs is going to be as effective or less effective than putting colored strip lighting behind it, because if I can do that, then I can more accurately color the individual lights. If there is some banks where there are blue lights next to white lights up in here, and if I can do that more accurately, then I can put a colored gel just behind the areas that I need to, and that will allow me to get more color variations in the bulbs. So a little bit of research there, but let me get another coat of clear red on those. Good morning and welcome back. It is Tuesday, and before I've got a vinyl order in, so before I start plotting and making a lot of noise, I thought I would catch you up where I am. This experiment worked very well, and I think this is what I'm going to end up doing. I think white LEDs behind clear painted lenses, for lack of a better term, is going to be a better way to go than using a bunch of different colored LED strips. Although some places where it's isolated, like the places where there are green, are fairly far away from other ones. So I may make a combination of the two, but it is good to know that in the cases where I have yellow and white next to each other, or blue and white next to each other, I can use this method and get along just fine. Making boxes, these are the boxes I made yesterday, and I've painted those red inside, and I just need to poke a bulb through there, and I'm working my way slowly around. I went ahead and put these little cubbies in and glued those nice and securely, and right now I am working on the box that goes behind this group, and that way I can try to get this to lay down with one arm. Stop it. Here we go. Just prop that up against there. This will go in there like that, and I'll stick a bulb up through the bottom, and that will be enough to hit all of that. And this one here actually will go like this, and that will put the red bulb underneath, and I will do something similar on the back. And I think just working my way around is going to be the way to go. Now that I do know that this works for a fact, I am going to make up a blank to go underneath this grouping and pop it in something like that, because we've got strips of blue here, but we've got two red lights in between it. So that was always a tricky one to pull off. So then I can make up a box, something like that, to go over the top of it. And I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to try to do a bulb or a flat strip of LED. I think I'm going to go with a strip here, only because I've got very little leg room underneath here. I can't really hide a real deep box here because you've got other things going on there. And so it may be the smaller or the smoother or the flatter I can keep the box, the better off I'm going to be. So that'll be the next one. And I think these are the ones that we're going to get the green. These are yellow up here, but so I think basically I'm going to be working my way around this bottom piece, and then I'll start adding the side walls into it. Okay, working on the light boxes for the ambient red lights, and that's what happens when you put a bulb in there and you get a very definite hot spot. Sorry, keep the camera right. You get a very definite hot spot, and I'm not wild about that. But if you pull out my old friend the fiberfill, you will see that it is possible to put enough fiberfill in there that when I gotta put the camera down. Hold on. All right, and here you go. It's in place. Now that is a handful to try to keep a hold of. All these pieces are just being held together by my grubby little paw. But there you see the one light, and I did have to back up and re-aim the LED coming in from the side rather than the back to more center the light. But that's stuffed full of fiberfill, and it is, of course, the camera's blowing it out more than it should, but you're getting a nice even red glow there with just a little bit of a hot spot in the center, and that can be taken care of by just, moving the fiberfill around a little bit. But that's really doing the job. Well, good morning and welcome back to the mess. I had to clean up this morning, and I had to clean up because I was turning this desk into a rat's nest. And it was because I was doing the thing that I hate to do the most, and I always fall into the same trap when I'm working on a model, and that is I skip and I jump around to different things, and I don't finish any one thing. And it is to know yourself is the ultimate form of aggression, they say. It is the thing I hate the most about myself, is that I cannot pick up one thing and see it through to the end. I have to jump around and do a bunch of little things. And that gets you nowhere fast because you're running around in circles and you don't follow something through. Well, the good news is in all of that I think I worked through a lot of different issues yesterday about how everything was going to go down. So hopefully, if I could pay attention to myself today, I should be able to barrel through some of this. Now, what I did was I eventually came up with this kind of arrangement for the dual screens. And while I was playing with that, while I was doing the red lighting, while I was doing everything else. So I have to go back, take stock of what I actually got accomplished yesterday and how to carry that through to today. I also, while I was bouncing around, I decided I was going to work on the side walls. No, I'm going to work on this wall. No, I'm going to work on that. So I need to put everything away that I do not want to be distracting me today. And I think what I want to do is to work around, get this piece ready, which means get the two back walls, get these guys, what I did the most work on yesterday, get those ready to glue in, and then that would leave this box here, which I did do some work on yesterday. Turn this over. This is the box for that wall. And once I get this box and this box done, I can put this whole thing aside with the exception of the big expensive screens that go here. But that will give me that much done. Then I can go on to the sidewalls. I was starting, I'll make my excuses now and let you go from there. I was starting to do these red lights that go on the sides here, and then while I was thinking of that, I jumped up to do these red lights. Well, it's way too early to do these ones. I did get this top part glued in, or the inserts glued in, but as far as coming up with the boxes for them, I need to decide whether or not I'm going to use strip lighting or single LEDs and all that kind of stuff. So I need to take this and remove it. I need to take these side boxes and remove them, even though I got these nice little TV inserts done. I need to remove those until I am ready to deal with it and concentrate on the exact issue at hand, which is this wishbone piece. Okay, I've brought the test dummy, the crash test dummy, into the table here to show you what we're looking at when we are talking about these back walls. This is the back wall that I have just been working on. That's with the box for the lighting, and I need to put a box here for that lighting. Well, that's where it looks like in place. So you have all of this real estate. Now, first thing you need to check is, how does the door hit? Well, the door doesn't hit it at all. I mean, if you look in there, the door doesn't even come in contact with all of this. So I've got plenty of scads of room for that light box. The second thing I want to look at while I've got this open is how much, and even though I said I just wanted not to deal with the roof lighting, but while we're there, here is that light box. How much room do we have for a light box in there? And the answer is not nothing, but not as much as maybe you would like. So any light box we put behind this lighting clear part is going to have to be fairly slim and form-fitting. I was thinking of making a squared off box, and it looks like I might have to make a box that is rounded. It follows the same contours as the roof. So thinking about that while I'm working. Also, look at all of this. I mean, I've got plenty of room for that box to go back behind the screens. I've got plenty of room for lighting to go behind these walls. Plenty of room here. Nothing to worry about whatsoever there. I can have room to chase wiring underneath the back here. That's going to be a good area. That might even be a nice area to store batteries. If you're going to run the whole thing on those 4.5 volt batteries, you could stack them there. I mean, you've got room up here for the headlight lighting, wiring. Now, granted, I don't have the arms in, but they don't take up, those posts don't take up any room at all. So, yeah, it's all kinds of room under there. But, you know, if experience is any teacher, that room disappears awfully quickly. So, still need to be careful about it. But I am imagining, since there is not even a door on, since there is not even a door on this side behind this wall, which is this wall here, that there is going to be even more room for that lighting. So there you go. That's what I'm concentrating on today. Okay, the first real measure of success is here. I got this box epoxied in now, and it's got one strip of the extra high density LEDs behind it. I'm going to put tape over, or foil tape over the back of this, just to light block any spill that might go downwards and hit the floor. But this is looking pretty good. Now, this is going to be probably a pretty weak battery if I put a battery on this, but hopefully you'll get the idea. There you go. You can see some of it. It's lit up with the blue and the white. It's a weak battery, but with a stronger battery on it, you see better. But there you go. That's the first inbox. You can see here lying on their faces are the two back walls, and I've got the light boxes epoxied in so that they can get a good foundation in there, and that will give me all of the lighting for this wall and all of the lighting for this wall. And once these guys have been cured in, and I can put the lights, the bulbs in it, and all that kind of stuff, then I think I am ready to attach them to the wishbone here. I just need to do the side lights on the wishbone, and we'll be ready to go with that. This box here is still not quite dried in. Sorry, get it on camera. This one isn't quite set up yet, so I may go out and get some lunch and come back and then see how well it has set up. I'm in no rush for that, but that will take care of pretty much that, and I can work on these smaller banks of lights. Well, good morning, how do you do, and welcome back. It is Thursday, and you know, one day a week, usually one day a week, I have one of those days where I just get a ton done. There are some days I end up spinning my wheels, and there's usually one day out of the week I'll get a lot done. I'm hoping today is that day, because I've been seeing a progress. It's been slow and incremental, but it's been not as rapid as I would like. But the good news is, overnight, all of this epoxy is now dried, or cured, and rock solid. I gotta stop saying dried. It wasn't really wet. It's cured. It's cured, and it is rock solid. So I am looking forward to actually getting some more stuff done today. While I was waiting for this to set up yesterday, I went ahead and made these little Scratchbuilt these little backings, and what that's going to do is allow me to put bulbs on the back sides of these and lay them in place and finish up the lighting. What my goal is for today, and I know it's useless to talk about goals, but you know, it keeps me motivated. My goal is to get this done today. If I can get this done and then get these two walls attached to it, that will be a gracious plenty for today. And it will allow me to try something new, something I picked up last night at my monthly model club meeting. If you don't have a model club in your area, start one. It's fun. It's good friendship. It's you know, they say it's tough after a certain age to make new friends, but I have not found that to be true when you join a model club. You don't always have to talk about models. I would say we spend maybe, I don't know, 10% of our time talking about models. But you know, you go out for dinner, and then you BS for the night. It's not bad, and it beats bowling. But meet over at our local hobby shop, which is Hangar 18 here in Cary, North Carolina. Probably the best stocked hobby shop within, I would say, a circumference of about 50 miles. But I'm going to try this. I picked this up last night. Gloss varnish and matte varnish from Vallejo. I'm getting to the point here that once I've got all this work done, I want to spray this, even though I did spray it with the Tamiya black, and then I put a gloss coat over it. I wasn't really happy with the gloss coat, but I'm going to try this gloss varnish. It is a acrylic. They call it an acrylic resin. I'm going to try that as an underlayment for the decals that have to go on here, and then I've got the matte varnish to go on top of it, and I'm hoping I will be able to spray over top of all these naked exposed buttons and not have to worry about it. I mean, once the decals are down, I'm not going to be able to cover them up anyway, so I'm going to try getting that sprayed. But to do that, I want to make sure I've got all of my work done here first, and that means getting these two areas filled. And I also stuck these on last night, and there's a room there for one bulb on each side, and that lights up these ones up here. So this is taken care of. These two are more or less taken care of, and all I've got to do is these two sections, and we'll be ready to go. I have to pull out my bulbs and apportion them and dedicate them to wherever they're going to go so that I don't overpromise myself. And by that I mean I have a tendency to say, oh, I've got enough bulbs to do this, this, and this. But if I don't take the bulb, physically remove it out of my stock and designate it for something, then I have a tendency to use the same bulb more than once, which is not good when it comes down to actually, you know, putting them in place. So that's what I'm doing. I am going to take stock of my bulbs and meet them out because there are some that have already been designated. Okay, things are starting to come to life here. I've got this panel in, these two panels in, the center panel in, and I'm working on this last side over here. Now it's tricky because this cluster here is yellow and the other clusters here are green. So whereas I used green bulbs here, I may have to use white bulbs and paint something separate to, or either that or else partition this one cluster off and make sure that it gets a white or a at least a warm white, if not an outright yellow. Although yellow lights are hard to get, I've noticed. All of my LEDs that say yellow on them are more of an amber. They're almost into the orange and red category. They're not really yellows per se. I think to get the best yellow, you just stick a warm white in there. So it may be a question of putting a warm white there and then green around the rest of them. But once this is done, I want to give everything a coat of that clear, this guy, the clear varnish. And I think I want to, see, today's Thursday, I've got one more day. I think I want to put the decals down on this before I start moving to the side walls, because if I get the side walls all done and then start putting the decals down and then something goes awry, I'm in deeper doo-doo than I am if the walls are still off. I think what I'd like to do is make it so each wall is its own unit that I can kind of plug in to, you know, the sides. That way I can modularize them much better. Okay, I am rapidly approaching 60 years old, and even I can learn something new every day, remember to do something. And I smartened up. This zoom out, power coming out to here, which powers this box and this box. It goes to a jack now. This goes to a plug that I can pop in and out without having to mess around with wiring a lot. Basically what I want to try to do with this is make it so the walls will plug in. I can wire the walls completely separately down to a plug, and then as I am ready to attach them, I can plug them in to the side. It's going to hopefully make my wiring so much less stressful this time. I haven't quite figured out how to work these guys in yet, but I'm definitely doing that with both the side walls. Yes, I can be taught. Okay, time for a little humble bragging. I was told about this by a friend of mine in my model club who is much more into aviation and armor and actual hardware, military hardware modeling than I am. He gets fine scale modeler all the time. And he got this particular issue and told me I should get a copy of it because they had pictures from Wonderfest. And it takes you all the way to the back, but there you go. There's my Starbug. How about that? This is the difference it makes when you have professional photography too. It doesn't look that good in real life. That's professional photography that makes it look that good. But thought you'd like to know. Thought you'd something, that and a Dalek, something you would never see in a fine scale modeler magazine. But that was a good tip, a good hint, and thank you very much. And I'm chuffed as heck to be in have a model of mine in the Fine Scale Modeler magazine. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Okay, done with these. Now these two are on a separate circuit, so they're not all on the same line. So I have to wire those up separately. But we've got our green lights, we've got our main console lights, we've got our green lights with the yellow light there. At this point, I am ready to spray the top of this with a clear, with this clear varnish, the gloss varnish, so that we can put some decals on it. Won't that be sweet? I can see where I've got some additional light blocking that I need to do. Perhaps I need to do that first. Yeah, let me touch this up, touch up the black on this first. As the sun comes streaking in through the side window, I gotta say, I love how this gloss varnish worked. It gave it a nice even coating. It smoothed out a lot of the stuff. I have high hopes for the flat finish or the matte finish that I'm going to put on afterwards, but it's decal time. And I don't mind telling you, I have my reservations about these decals. You know how I feel about decals generally, but I am curious to know how well these decals are going to come out around the buttons. That's my main skepticism. Is going to be how well the buttons poke up through the decals, because they are, I mean, they've got holes cut in them. You don't have to trim them out. So we're gonna see, and then we're gonna know, and that's going to tell us a lot about how the rest of this is going to go at the same time. So let's start up front, because if these are either gonna work or they're not. So no sense pussyfooting around. Okay, we're going to see how well this settles down, but it is as I feared. These holes in the insides are not big enough, so I need to cut darts in the corners from now on before I put it in the water, because it's too soft afterward. After you get it out of the water, it's too soft to do that. So these, I knew it was going to be dicey at best, so it's going to be a bit more of an ordeal than I had planned. Cutting them apart might be a good option. Okay, not wild about these. It's a struggle to get them on. I don't see any great reason to keep the black area, so I'm going to trim these down as closely as I can to get rid of the excessive black area, because all that seems to do is want to pull and tug the decal in the wrong directions. So I'm going to cut these out and then cut a slit, and there goes the compressor. Cut the decals out and then cut a slit to wrap them around the buttons, and we'll see how well that works. But yeah, there's no real good reason to keep all of this black. This was nerve-wracking. If I had any nerves left, they would be racked. I'm too old for this nonsense. I can tell you that cutting the black off and cutting darts into the decals helps it a little bit, but it's still kind of rough. We'll see how this is starting to settle down nicely. Some of these are settling down nicely. This one's the one I just finished, so it's a little bit rougher. But man, this is kind of not fun. And I know it's I couldn't really tell you a better alternative because of all these fine white outlines around all the panels. That's where your problem comes. But that being said, they either needed to make the buttons themselves smaller to allow for the decals, or, I mean, the carrier film is darn close to the edge of the color, so it's a problem. It's a problem, and it will test your patience, and you should be prepared to do some workouts on this, but we're going to let that sit and then come back to it. But cutting away as much of the black as you can get away with, and cutting darts or diagonal stress release lines in the corners, that's going to help. But it's just some picky work. Okay, little progress report. The circle decal, even worse than the straight line decals, as far as being able to fit down over top of those clear parts. We'll see how it settles, but for right now, this one I think is gonna be a nightmare. We'll try this other one next, and I'm gonna try to open up those holes a little bit wider. Cut some release darts in them. See if that will help. This one went on, these two went on beautifully because they're flat and they fit just on the black. But this one I cut apart to fit in there, and I've got my reservations about that. We'll see. I'm not wild about these. What I said about having one of those days where you get a lot done, it's past 7 now, and I'm still working because the time change has thrown my clock off, and my internal clock off, and as long as it still looks light out, I feel like I should be working. And B, I just got caught up in getting wiring and these decals done. So yeah, going pretty good guns today. I'm going to paint up some details on that panel there, and then I'm going to pack it in for the evening. Alrighty, one last thing before I close up shop for the evening. I had to open up my mock-up pod to check to see how I painted something on that side wall to make sure I painted the other one the same way. And while I was at it, I thought I'd give you this bird's eye view. This is as much room as we have to light that top panel. So we've actually got a good ½ inch, maybe, well, let's get it in camera. We've got all of that room there to light up that area. So we can get the light fairly far back. And like I've said before, the further back you get the light source, the more diffuse it is, and unless you get a hot spot. And I'm thinking 1 or maybe 2 strips across there will do it. But this is that piece, and you can see how poorly the decal, at least in my opinion, is shrinking down around that. Luckily, you don't see it all that well. I mean, it's up there, you see the light that shines through it, but you really have to be down at this angle looking through the window, and by the time you get the frame and the glass in there, you may not see it at all. So that's as much as you've got. But you've plenty of room to light it from the top. These, however, are fairly close to the edge, and this almost touches the edge of the inner side of the dome. So those are going to be trickier. Those are going to have to be either surface mount LEDs, little tiny SM LEDs, or these high density cool whites that are very flat. Let me see if I can find one. Well, I can't find one. Well, wait, here's one. They're very flat, and we might have room to do something like that. That may be the best we get out of those. So, that's it for today, and we'll pick this up again tomorrow. Good morning, it's Friday. Welcome back to the last work day of the week, and got an order in for templates today, so I'm taking a break in the plotting to catch you up on where we are. Now, overnight, the decals have settled down. They have nestled their way onto their final resting places, and now I am ready to deliver a verdict on them. I don't like them. I wish they were different. These are particularly, those are kind of nasty. I'm going to spray everything with a flat coat this morning, and hopefully that will change my opinion of them. I've painted the clear bits. Let me take a side trip here. This is Friday. I'm going to get some whining, grousing, belly aching out of the way. Get it out early so that we can get on with the rest of our lives. There's no bloody reason why these shouldn't. If you're going to make those white, make these white as well. They cast these in clear, expecting people to put lights in them. Well, if you're going to light these, you're going to light those. Those should have been clear as well. I know it has to deal with, which parts fit on which trees, and if you're making a mold, or if you're making a runner of clear parts, what parts do you include? I wish, I'm not going to second guess them, but I wish they would have found a way to make these white. If you're not going to make those clear, make these white, because light reacts to them completely differently. They have to be painted differently. The decals go on differently. It's just, it makes no sense. They accomplish the same goals. They have the same type of buttons on them. They have the same type of lights shining through them. And yet, because these are clear, they have to be treated completely differently than the white ones. Now, I tried putting just a piece of white behind it to see whether that was going to do any good, but no, that means I have to bump up the wattage on the bulbs to get the light to shine through them the same way. So learn it, live it, deal with it. I don't know. Maybe somebody out there will recast these three pieces in a white styrene, or maybe we can persuade Mobius to do that. It's just it's an unnecessary complication. It could have been thought, one more pass past the old brain box to figure that out. Secondly, the decals. They have settled down. They're still not great. Like I said, once that shine gets knocked off from putting a flat coat on them, we will see how well they are going to be. But the holes were not large enough, so they're not sitting down over top of the raised buttons. And I don't know whether this is the right time or not to go into this subject, but what will happen probably on my next build, and I would recommend this if you have the stomach for it, if you have the sheer guts to do it. I would take these down about half of their height. I would grind all of these buttons down. I think they are too tall. There's too much button there. And if you were to grind those down to about half as high as they are, you might find the decals going over them a little easier. Now, the problem with that is on the backs, you can see where there's a channel cut into it to facilitate lighting, which if you cut the height of those buttons, come on, get in focus. If you cut the height of those buttons down in half, you might run into the problem of actually gnawing through that. So that could be an issue. I mean, the only other thing I would think of doing would be to not scrap these completely, but trace off the white panels, the overall wall sizes, trace those off onto sheet styrene, make yourself a new set, and just have the buttons be at the same level as everything else. I know Paul has got brass replacement, or brass overlays for these. You might consider, getting Paul's brass replacements and using those as your walls, and, chucking these pieces and then lighting behind the brass. I don't know. There's a creative community out there. Somebody got to figure out a better solution for this, because trying to get these decals around these very tall buttons is a pain. And here you can see, now that the decals are dried in, this is where decal was. This is not bare plastic, but this is where just the painted plastic is. So I need to see what this is going to look like with an overall flat coat, if it's going to knock down that difference. I still think, like, here is where I trimmed a decal to go around, and this is what's left over from using the full decal black. I like this look better. They were certainly easier to work with. They required, some fiddling and all that, but they were easier to work with than trying to place the whole decal down and getting it to fit over top of all of the raised buttons. So cutting the decals apart is job one. Taking your time, obviously, is job two, and then getting a stiff drink after it is job three, because it was harrowing work. So to start us off today, I'm going to flat coat these three pieces that I've got done, plus these three panels, and put these off to the side so I don't get confused with them, and then start lighting up those guys. So let me get a coat of clear on this and see what the results are. Every Christmas time I watch the movie Elf with Will Ferrell. It's probably one of the few Will Ferrell movies that I can watch the whole way through, the other being Talladega Nights, because I live in Talladega Nights around here, so it's funny to watch. Here's the thing. There's a scene where after he has met Zooey Deschanel's character, he jumps up and down and starts saying, "I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love." And who wouldn't be with Zooey Deschanel in that movie? She's gorgeous. But I know exactly how he feels today. I'm in love. I'm in love. I'm in love. And ironically, I was just asked about this in an email this morning about what do I use now that the polyscale paints have disappeared or dried up and gone away. And I bemoaned the loss of the old polyscale dust because I loved using it on stuff because it gave a nice flat finish. Well, I got to tell you, I'm in love with matte varnish from Vallejo. This is the new dust. I would take this intravenously if I could. This is wonderful stuff. Airbrushes on, so you don't have to worry about, a wild can of spray going everywhere. So you have some control over it. It's water cleanup. It does not smell. It can go over clear parts. It can go over these white buttons without clouding them or coloring them. It's wonderful. It makes the decals look better. Even flattened these guys down, which is still, this is probably still the worst decal of the lot for all of the buttons that had to go up over. But look at this. And you can see the blacks have disappeared. The difference in the blacks I had there disappeared. Yeah, friend, I have a new arrow in my quiver, and I can't think of a better way to put it than that. The Vallejo gloss varnish underneath the decals, Vallejo matte varnish on top of the decals. Now there's also a semi-gloss, I guess, a semi-matte finish I did not pick up. I think I'm going to go over and get some of that just to see what the difference is. But that is the bomb. If you want to know what the bomb is, that, my friends, is the bomb. Went over this stuff like a charm, cleans up like a breeze. Now let me go ahead and put some lights to this this panel here. Put some power to these lights, sorry. Okay, there you go. And you can see now this is a little bit of a wackiness, and that's because the decal shifted a little bit. It did not lay flat over the opening. Kind of tough to gauge. I guess if you're not lighting it, you don't notice it, but if you're lighting it, it came off a little bit winky. These are not lit because they're on a separate circuit right now. I haven't got them wired in. But what I want to do now that everything is so happy, so happy, on these back walls is look how good. See if I can zoom in on it. Come on, focus, hocus pocus, dominocus. Can we see it? Okay. Look at how wonderfully it settled in that decal as far as making all the carrier film disappear. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So, I'm going to put these three walls together, glue them up, put it aside, and then start working on these side walls. Okay, and here is with everything that I got done this week with the, now these side walls are just in for looky-loos. They're in for placement, kind of hold everything together. They don't have any lights in them yet. But this is how everything has turned out, and boy, howdy, I am happy. I'm a happy pappy here. This is going to go very well. This is going to bode very well for the rest of it. I am almost positive. There will be blue lights in here. There will be blue lights up there. There will be red gauges here. Blue lights down here. Blue and white lights here. Screens. I mean, it's going to be an extravaganza. But look at that. Let me turn the overheads on. And I'm going to have to redo the white balance. Hold on. The camera doesn't automatically adjust white balance when you're recording. It does if you're taking still pictures, but not if you're recording video. So there you go. The reds and the greens a little bit over, these greens here a little bit overpowering right now, but they'll balance out once everything else is in place. But looky there. Good place to stop for the week. There's some behind the scenes stuff done on these sidewalls, but I didn't get near as much of them done as I'd like. And that's gonna do it for this week. It's like same old. Didn't get as much done as I wanted to. I know you're tired of hearing me say that. I'll never get as much done in a week as I want to. but a long way down the road on this lighting. Very happy with it. And once the lighting's done, once the inside's done, that's easily 2/3, 3/4 of the whole pod. I mean, there's some white body work on the outside, but that's about it. So that's where we end up. Again, I had an order come in, took some time away to do that. What are you going to do? You got to keep the lights on. So until next week, speaking of lights, next week we will be finishing up these sidewalls. We might even get the headlights done and get the thing closed up. Wouldn't that be a neat trick? Lots of work to do on the arms, some detail work on them. It's all. I mean, it's construction and decaling. There's not a lot of. There's no painting really. You want a little bit of silver painting, but no lighting certainly. And it's going to go. I think it's going to go much quicker after that. So until next week, when we get back to it, be good to each other. If it's nice outside, go out and play. If it's not nice, stay inside and read a book. Do something. Until next week, then. See you. Did I say the thing about the be good to each other, and we'll see you here next time? If I did, then we'll do that.